James chapter 1, we're continuing our study in the book of James. James chapter 1, verse 5. Bet you never thought we'd get off of 2 through 4, right? And actually we never really, we dealt with 2 through 4, but we never really dealt with 2 through 4. But we're going to move on through 5 through 12, okay? James chapter 1, starting at verse 5. If any of you needs wisdom, any of you need any wisdom? All y'all are smart, right? You don't need any wisdom, right? If any of you needs wisdom to know what you should do, just ask. Ask God, and He will give it to you. God is generous to everyone who doesn't find fault, to everyone and doesn't find fault with them. When you ask for something, don't have any doubts. A person who has doubts is like a wave that is blown by the wind and tossed by the sea. A person who has doubts shouldn't expect to receive anything from the Lord. Whoa. A person who has doubts is thinking about two different things at the same time and can't make up his mind about anything. Humble believers should be proud because being humble makes them important. Rich believers should be proud because being rich should make them humble. Rich people will wither like flowers. The sun rises with its scorching heat and dries up plants. The flowers drop off and the beauty is gone. The same thing will happen to rich people. While they are busy, they will die. Blessed are those who endure when they are tested. Man, James loves to talk about being tested, doesn't he? James loves to talk about going through trials, doesn't he? Do you think maybe we're going to be tested? Do you think maybe that's why James talks about being tested and tried and going through trials? Do you think maybe we're going to have tests and trials and some tough times? Do you think maybe we just might have a test or two? Do you think maybe we might need some wisdom to get through those tests? I don't think any of us have any tests, do we, Regina? He states that several times. He talks about tests all the time. But then he talks about what happens if we pass the test, right? Blessed are those who endure when they are tested. When we endure the test, when they pass the test, they will receive a crown of life that God has promised to those who love Him. When we pass the test, we receive a crown of life. Woo! Bless the Lord. Oh, we forget about all that, right? We forget about the good stuff. We forget about the fact that when we go through the test and the trying of our faith worketh patience, but let patience have her perfect work in you, so you may be complete and whole, lacking nothing. We forget about the fact that we're matured when we go through the test, right? We forget about that fact. All we do is focus on the, oh, woe is me. Poor me. I've got this test I'm going through, and it's so bad. My hangnail really hurts. I wish somebody would fix it. Thanks, Pete, but I think I'll go see a doctor instead. Numbers chapter 20. Numbers chapter 20. in the first month, the whole community of Israel came into the desert of Zin, and they stayed at Kadesh. Miriam died and was buried there. Since the community was without water, they came together to confront Moses and Aaron. Now, you want to talk about a test? No water. And here's Moses. 1.2 million people, and they're coming to complain to the leader. You want to talk about a test? He's just lost his, oh my word, had a death in the family, the whole community's without water, and they're coming to complain. The people complained to Moses and said, "If only we had died when the other Israelites died in the Lord's presence. Did you bring the Lord's assembly into the desert just to have us and our animals die here? Why did you make us leave Egypt and bring us into this terrible place? There is no place to plant crops. Even figs, grapes, and pomegranates won't grow here, and there's no water to drink." Oh my goodness. If I had been Moses, I would have said, "Lord, take them out." But look what they did. Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting. Immediately they bowed with their faces, touching the ground, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. The Lord said to Moses, "If any of you lack wisdom, ask." The Lord said to Moses, "Take your staff. Then you and your brother Aaron gather the community right before their eyes. Tell the rock to give up its water." Tell the rock, that's key. Tell the rock. In this way, you will give the community water from the rock for them and their animals to drink. Moses took his staff out of the tent in the Lord's presence as he had been commanded. Then Moses and Aaron assembled the community in front of the rock and said to them, "Listen, you rebels! Must we bring water out of this rock for you?" And Moses raised his hand and hit the rock twice with his staff. Now, what was he supposed to do? Speak to the rock, right? God said, "Tell the rock to bring forth the water." Moses hit the rock twice. Okay? Water came pouring out, and all the people and their animals drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "You didn't trust me." Oh, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask, but don't be like this, don't doubt. Don't be like the sea. Anybody who has a double mind is thinking about two different things. Can we see James 1, 5 through 12 here in this story? Okay. If you don't see it yet, maybe you will by the time we get finished over the next couple of weeks, all right? You didn't trust me. You didn't show the Israelites how holy I am. So you will not bring this congregation into the land I'm giving them. This was the oasis of Meribah complaining. Meribah means complaining, where the Israelites complained about the Lord and where he showed them he was holy. If you've ever had a moment in your life where you've poured yourself into a ministry, or you've poured yourself into someone, or into a place, or into a thing, and didn't get the result you expected, if you've been good to somebody who wasn't good back to you, this message is for you. If you've ever given your best to somebody and they act like it wasn't nothing at all, then this one, I don't know about next week or the one after that, but this one right here today, this one is for you. Because I want us to talk a little bit about the fight with frustration. Have you ever had to deal with frustration? I'm sure none of you have ever had to deal with frustration. All you good people, I mean, you've never had to deal with frustration, right? Never. I mean, I'm sure that you wise, intelligent people, you have never had to deal with frustration. I'm sure that none of you got frustrated this morning. If you've been here for praise team practice, you would know that my wife never got frustrated with her husband this morning. I know that I'm the only one that needs this message this morning. Because none of you mature, holy believers, you holy, sanctified, spirit-filled saints ever get frustrated, right? All y'all need to be at the altar at the end of service today. James tells us that if we lack wisdom, that we're to ask. After all, if we're going to conquer temptation, if we're going to conquer frustration, if we're going to be victorious over our trial, we have to be wise, right? We have to have wisdom, right? We have to be able to figure out how to overcome. Now I know that y'all are a bunch of smart people. Some of you are smart aleck, but I know that you're a bunch of smart people, and I know that you got it all figured out, and I know that you know where to go for all the answers, and I know that you know how to use your electronic devices. But I'm here to tell you this morning, as smart as Google is, Google don't know everything. As smart as Facebook is, Facebook isn't going to give you all the answers to life's problems. As many instructional videos as YouTube might have, it won't have what you need to all of life's issues. You're going to come up against something that is going to require more than what the internet has to offer. You're going to come up against something bigger than your electronic device. You're going to come up against something stronger than Google. You're going to come up against something more powerful, faster than a speeding bullet, and able to leap a tall building with a single bound, and you won't know how to handle it. And I don't care how many people you ask. I don't care how many searches you do. I don't care how many websites you visit. There's only one place to go who has all the answers, and He's the one who created it all. He's the one who holds it all together. He's the one who said, and it was. He's the one who molded you out of the dust. He's the one who knit you together in your mother's womb. He's the one who breathes life into your body. He's the one who puts food on your table, and it's not Buddha, Muhammad, Krishna, David Koresh, or any of those other guys. His name is Adonai, Jehovah. He's the King of Kings. He's the Lord of Lords. He sits on the throne, and there's no thing big enough to knock Him off. And if you lack wisdom, just ask this morning. because he has all the answers. He's a walking, living, breathing encyclopedia of knowledge. And he knows your today, he knows about your past, and he knows about your tomorrow. So why not look to him for your answers? Oh, but here's the catch. You can't just ask. You have to ask believing. You can't waver. You can't be double-minded. Oh, you can't be like the seas of the ocean. You can't doubt. You'll have to believe that he's going to come through and what he says is true. That he's going to do what he says. You can't get frustrated when he's not on your timetable. You can't get frustrated when people aren't following what you want. When people are complaining around you. When people aren't following your lead. When people are going where when people are going where you want them to go. When people are complaining at you. When people come to you with their problems. When people are just being people. Because people are people, right? You know what that means, right? People will get on your nerves. People will drive you crazy. People will be themselves. People won't act like you want them to act. People will make you want to pull your hair out. That's why I ain't got none. People will drive you to see a shrink. People will drive you to bite your nails. People will bring you to a place of anger. People will bring you to a place of frustration, so much so that you won't know what to do anymore. Oh, see, you can have a vision, and you can see the end, and you can see the victory, and you can see the glory, and you can see where the Lord is leading, and you can see what the Lord wants to do, and you can see how the Lord wants to work, and you can see how the Lord wants to move. Oh, but people. People will still want to go back. People will still want to hold on. People will still want the leeks and onions. People will, I just lost my place. People will, that's why I hate electronic devices. People will still want the comfort of Egypt, forgetting the taskmasters. People are people. Look at Numbers for a minute. Look at our story in Numbers for a minute. We have to remember that this is Moses, right? This is Moses. He's the pastor of the Old Testament. If you want to know how to be a leader, you study Moses. You study Moses. I've learned so much from Moses and how to be a leader. His name means drawn out. He was called out of the water. God calls a leader out of the baby who is called out of the water. God calls a nation out of the leader, drawing them out. There is always with God a drawing out. God draws things out of you. He pulls them out of you. Things you didn't even know you had in you. God, He's always drawing them out of you. They don't always appear instantly, but over time, that's why you go through what you go through. Because God is drawing things out of you. He's drawing those things that you didn't even know you had in you. That's why you have the trials that you have. That's why you have the temptations that you have. That's why you have the people you have to deal with. That's why you have the situations that you have, because God is drawing things out of you. And Moses is an example of life experiences. It took a while, but God drew him out. Oh, it only took a moment to draw the baby out of the water, but it took a while to draw the leader out of the baby. If you got nothing else, if you get nothing else out of this, I've preached in that statement alone. Think about it. It only takes a moment to draw the baby out of the cradle, but it takes a while to draw the woman out of the baby. And the baby comes out of the woman much quicker than the woman comes out of the baby. I would suggest to you that all life is a delivery room drawing things out of you that you didn't even know you had in you. Drawing out. He was raised to think like an Egyptian, but he had the blood of a Hebrew. And the fight he saw on the street was the fight he had on the inside. You know what it is? You know what it's like to have a fight on the inside when you're dealing with fights on the outside? It's easier to stop the fight on the outside than the one on the inside. Think about it. I know I'm making you think this morning. Maybe that coffee hasn't hit yet. But think about it. He kills the man and stops the fight on the outside. And for 40 years, the would-be prince is now an outlaw running from what could have been his heir apparent. And now he runs, not even a slave, but a runaway convict, hiding from justice. And there he has an encounter with God, and God says, go to the very place that you're running from and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. This is an amazing moment, not only because he goes back to the very place he's running from and he has to face what he's afraid of. That's something all by itself, but it's an amazing moment because he gets to become the leader of the people that he is connected to, but he never got to bond with. It's like getting your family back. It's like making your cultural connection. Moses comes back to Egypt to lead his people out of Egypt, and there's a personal investment here because now he's connected with his brothers, and God has such a great idea. I'm in the mix with my people. It's a great idea, God. I'm connected with my culture. It's a wonderful thing, and it feels good in theory. And it sounds amazing. We eat the same stuff. We like the same colors. We dance the same and move the same, and it's cool. And I'm hanging out with my folks, and especially when you never had it, but sometimes things sound better in your head than they do carried out, right? So he comes to his own people and he starts leading them out. And he's got God's power, and he's got God's hand, and he's got God's might, and he's trying to lead them out of something bad into something good. And you'd think they would like you. And you know you'd want to be liked, but because you're back, and he's leading them out from slavery, and they're fighting the one who's leading them out. And Moses has been dealing with these nincompoops for 120 years. Did I really call them nincompoops? I'm sorry, I don't know how to spell that, but he's been through hell and high water, the kind of stuff you go through that only life can teach you. Life is a university. And whether you want to take the classes or not, you have to take them every day. Life will teach you some stuff. And he's been up and he's been down and he's been around and around and around and around and around. He's been through snake bites. He's been through famine. He's been through pestilence. He's been attacked by the Amalekites. He's been through hell and high water for 40 years. He's been through it all until a whole generation of the Israelites has died in the wilderness because of their hateful, murmuring, complaining ways. And now, it's exciting. Because now he's leading the kids. And the fathers have bit on sour grapes, and the teeth of the children are set on edge. What do I mean by that? I mean the kids are just as nasty as the parents are. The children have unbelief because the parents have unbelief. I'm saying that they have inherited the attributes of their parents. They're just as hateful as their daddies were. And he's dealing with a fresh generation of hatred. And he's old. Can I speak a word on the behalf of the AARP? Children are for young people. You need energy to give children what they really need. Y'all shaking your head? Yes, you must experience the same thing I do. They laugh and run and play after you get home from work, and you need to be 20-something in order to keep up. When you get like 50 to 60 something, your laughter box breaks in like 3 minutes. Your patience runs out real quick. What you thought was cute when you were 20, you're wielding a machete when you're 60. There's a reason why old women should not get pregnant. And Moses is in this stage. And these people are in this stage. And the difference is that their fathers died in the wilderness. But this is the chosen generation that is going to the promised land. And here they are at Meribah. So God says, we're going to do that thing that we did before, only this time I want you to speak to the rock. Now the people have been murmuring and complaining. See, we're coming down to the story, right? Now the people have been murmuring, complaining, and Moses doesn't know what to do. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. So Moses comes to God and says, they're doing that thing their parents did, God. They're complaining. You know, when you have first generation trouble, you have patience and faith. But when it keeps coming up again and again and again and again, they're doing that thing their parents did. They're murmuring and complaining. And so God says, we're going to do that thing we did before, only we're going to modify it a little bit. Instead of striking the rock like you did the first time, I want you to speak to the rock, and the rock will come forth with water. And Moses says, cool, I can do that. He comes before the people, and they're complaining, and they had gotten on his last nerve. Anybody ever get on your last nerve? Pete, this is not accusation and pointing fingers, okay? This is just in your mind. Yeah, people have gotten on my last nerve. We have to understand that for this one little offense, Moses is blocked from getting into the promised land. Oh, you better be careful how you react to people. When God gives you a directive, I guess you better follow it, or you just might miss the blessing and the crown of glory that He has for you. Moses comes out before the people and he freaks out on the people and he has a meltdown. He just lets them have it. And what we read here is probably just the abridged version of what he said to them. Because I mean, really, you know how you do when you're talking to your folks and they've gotten on your last nerve, right? And there is a language that we are all communicating when people get on our last nerves, right? But whatever he said, it was good, and it was kind of a woosah. Right? But it resulted in God saying to Moses, you cannot go to the promised land because you did not obey me. We have to understand a couple of things about this that God was teaching Moses. Number one, God was using his life as an example of what he would later do with Christ. That the rock is a type of Jesus Christ. The reason that God wanted him to hit it is the first time, but not the second time, is that when he struck it the first time, it typified Christ being crucified. So the first time that Moses hit the rock and the water came out, typified Christ being crucified. And that Christ was crucified, and the shadow in the Old Testament to be that Christ was crucified once and he would not be crucified again. And so when Moses strikes the rock again, he shatters the typology. He messes up the metaphor. And God judges him because he says something about the rock that is not true. He says that the rock has to be struck twice to bring forth water. But when Christ only had to be crucified once. In John 4, he says, woman, if you knew who I was, you would ask me for water, because Christ is the rock. If you drink of the water that you have, you will thirst again. But if you drink of the water that I have, you will never thirst again. If you believe on me, as the scriptures have said, out of your belly shall flow rivers of water. Christ is the rock. We sing about him being the solid rock. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisements of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. You see, one time is enough. Moses struck the rock a second time and broke the type. He shattered it, and God got upset. And for God to block Moses from getting into the promised land, it had to be serious. God said, other prophets I speak through dreams and visions, but Moses, I speak to him face to face. God said, Moses is my boy. I don't give him dreams and visions. When I want to talk to him, I get right down in his face and say, yo, Moses, what's going down, man? He gets down and talks to him face to face. Moses has done all kinds of stuff in his life. He murdered a man, and yet God still used him. When Moses' sister spoke against him, God struck her with leprosy. Moses is God's dude. You get in trouble saying something about Moses. Moses had gotten in God's face and argued with him, and God put up with it. Moses got in his face and said, "They're your people, not my people." And God put up with that. So what was it? What was it about this that was horrible that God said, "For this you cannot go into the promised land"? And it was because he said something about Christ that wasn't true. His actions said that the cross wasn't enough, that he would be crucified twice. It shattered the gospel message to the chosen generation. The former generation didn't matter, but to the chosen generation. These are the generations who are entering into something for which they did not labor. These are the generations that are stepping into something that is so divine and so holy. Now the water is just flowing through the Word. And you are cleansed by the washing of the water of the Word. The Word is all you need to get the water. No more bruisings are necessary. But now through the Word, the water flows. Oh, do you hear me this morning? I'm going to keep saying it until you get it. It's in the Word. The water is in the Word. The thirst you have is in the Word. The healing is in the Word. You don't have to go through changes. You don't have to go through crucifixion. You don't have to bleed for it. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to sweat for it. All you have to do is hear the Word. And the water is in the Word. And the Word is in the water. And the water is in the Word. And the Word is in the water. And the water is in the Word, and the Word is in the water, and it's flowing. And the Bible says, and the Word of God increased, and the disciples multiplied. Whenever there's good Word, you don't have to beg people to come. The Word will draw them. And He sent His Word, and it healed them and delivered them from destructions. And the Word flowed. Oh, do you see it? Do you see it? Oh, when I'm talking about the Word, who am I talking about? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Jesus is the Word, and out of the Word flows living water. The water is in the Word, and the Word is in the water, and it flows out. Oh, do you need healing this morning? It's in the Word. Do you need direction this morning? It's in the Word. Do you need wisdom this morning? It's in the Word. Are you frustrated this morning? There's peace in the Word. What is your need this morning? It's in the Word. What are you complaining about this morning? It's in the Word. What are you struggling with this morning? It's in the Word. Oh, there is a river, and it flows from deep within. There is a fountain that frees the soul from sin. Come to this water. There is a vast supply. There is a river that never shall run dry. If you drink this water, you'll never thirst again, because the Word is in the water, and the water is in the Word. It didn't have to be struck again, because once was enough. When they pierced His side, blood and water flowed. The water is in the Word, and the Word is in the water. This is it. Have Christ here, the relationship here, right? That's where it starts, right? Then this is what He says. because this is God's Word. The water that refreshes your soul. Water is in the Word, and the Word is in the water. Whatever you need, come to the fountain